So with that being said, I am going to turn it over to Janelle Myers and Mariana Lasseri, and they are going to facilitate this discussion with these gentlemen. So ladies.
Good afternoon. I'm Janelle. I'm Mariana, and we'll be facilitating this learning forum for you guys today. Fathers, can you guys please come up? Take a moment to just go over some brief ground rules before we get started. So respect is paramount. We ask that everybody give their respect because everybody deserves respect. So we just ask that you please be respectful of other people's opinions, even if you may not agree with them or you may have opinions of your own. We just want to be respectful. Fathers, we ask you that you discuss your dealings and your experiences with systems, with providers, and please provide your feedback because we value that. We do ask that you please minimize, specific, our case specifics, or identifying information such as names or, names of children, staff, spouses, things like that, just for confidentiality and that good stuff. And then for staff, we just ask that you do some active listening, and you just be respectful of the fathers and also take these fathers' experiences for what they are and what they've been through, and avoid being defensive and defending our practice, because I know sometimes we can do that. Before we get started with our questions, can you guys take a brief moment to share your story with everyone and what brought you here today?
Good afternoon. My name is Gilbert. Story starts about November 16th, 15th. When my daughter was born and tested positive for cocaine. I am a recovering addict for 4 years now, and I'm very proud of that. So on this day my daughter was born, and unfortunately my wife and I were abusing substances, and like I said, she was more negative and taken away from us that evening along with her older sister. I'm not gonna lie, that night I went home and I got high. And that's all I could possibly do. Because that's all I knew to do to cope with my depression, my anxiety, and everything that I had. So my case started in New Haven, and it was moved to Waterbury. I went through 3 caseworkers. First 2 were female. First one we really didn't take too seriously. We were kind of like, oh, this too shall pass. They're gonna forget about us, and it didn't happen. Shortly that lady had resigned, and we were given another caseworker. She jumped right in, and I felt a little judged at first from time to time because I felt like it was more, it's kind of a stigma that, dads aren't always in the picture. And being the fact that me and my wife were going through this together, that was also a stigma, which I hear a lot about couples going into this program and being torn apart. And I'm proud to say that she's with me to this day. She's right over there. And our last caseworker was a male. He came in very neutral, and he straight up told us, it's not a game, you can lose your kids. And you guys are doing well, we're doing good, we're doing good. And then drug tests for all negative every day, going to rehab all the time and the programs and just doing what we had to do until one day a hair follicle came up positive and it set us back and it scared the crap out of us. Excuse me for that. And so we kept fighting, and that's all we could do. We just kept going, just doing whatever you guys asked us to do. And like, I want to just let everybody know that everything happens for a reason. I wouldn't change it. If people say my kids weren't able to be taken away, I wouldn't let them. No, honestly, I would, because it was something that had to be done in order for me to wake up and realize what meant the most to me. And, you know, it do mean a lot. And I wanted to say, like, people aren't crazy. Like, you know, Dave Chappelle said, it's dismissive to call people crazy. You know, they just might not be in the right environment. Their environment might be unhealthy. And that's what was happening to us. Our environment was unhealthy. And our last caseworker was very neutral, and he seemed to be the one to fight for us the most. And, you know, he would get upset when, you know, see us like slacking off. And I appreciated that, because sometimes you need that to tell you, hey, listen, you're slacking off. And you're upsetting, not only upsetting yourself, it's actually the kids that are getting hurt the most. And as dads, you know, a lot of us get just put in the corner. You know, no programs. Oh, mom can have this program, mom can have that program. And I didn't see a lot of programs for fathers as much as I did for mothers too. So, I just wanted to come and share that story that I'm proud to be here today and to help anybody that needs help with anything. And this happened to me, so I can be here today to share the story with you. Thank you very much.
How you doing? It's not easy for crowds. Excuse me a moment. Well, life was hard for me. Things changed in so many ways. Well, one of the things that I went through is I was accused of doing something that I didn't do. But getting help was so hard for me because as a man, I was looked at as just a man. When a woman would say something, I was put to a pedestal of, doesn't matter what I have to say. My career, I lost everything. I worked for child service for years. I've done every community service I can. I got kids off the street, put them in college, everything. And every job I've had, I've been fingerprinted. I've always done the right thing, especially working in my community. I've always felt connecting to my community was a big thing because I was that kid. You know, I wanted to help you just like anybody else. If you think about your background, where you come, you know it was hard. So I wanted to change that growing up. I've always been that community person. But when I started seeing that there was really no program for me when I went through something, I was kind of hurtful. Who do you go to when you need for help? It's not that many places you can even go to. You're just a man. That's what I'm just looked at. I don't have no weight, I don't show nothing, nothing to the system. The only person who gave me that gift up was people I can go to, but my kids. Dad is gonna be okay. It's hard when you look at your kids and you think you're gonna lose them because you lost everything. Great job, well income, I'm good with finance, I'm good with everything else. But when you lose everything, you don't know what to do. So what do? Who do you go to? Yes, I went to my family gave me the help. Yes, I went to friends that gave me the help. Because I'm a good man. But to the system, I'm just a man. That's a problem. If it wasn't for all the backup, for the people who know me, for all the things I've done, I wouldn't have had nothing. But the people who did believe in me is what backed me up. I got a phone call real quick to New York City and tell us what I'm going through. They said, It's incredible for a person that did that much for your community and you're going through something too. It can happen to anybody. Sometimes it's hard for me to take that in. It's actually happening to me. I'm actually going through something. I'm usually helping somebody else and now I'm going through it. Wow. No back was turned to me, but I felt like the system a lot of ways did turn it back to me. And I was like I told one of my brothers who is here, I said, I don't have a problem with the system because I don't run away from these because I've been around for too many years. But I know how to utilize them. Some people just don't know how to utilize the system, and that's the problem. They're uneducated on what to do. I can go to DCF and say I want a case open and say I know what needs to be done because it's all procedures. All we have to do is make sure the kids are safe. Number one rule. I'll get myself together. I'll figure out what system I can go to, who I can find and get on. But that's the problem. If you can take care of one part, how do we get, as a man, to find the other part to help us to get ourselves together so we can work and twine together? You can find a system between everybody making sure that we all work together to make it a situation better, not worse. Taking a child from a father, it's not a good thing because fathers love their kids. If you meet men in so many aspects and so many cultures, we do so much. I mean, like for me, I do so much with my kids. For Christmas, I didn't have much to give them. My son says, Dad, you give me so much, you don't have to. I mean, you've given us so much. You've taken so much from yourself just to give us every day. Even when it's not even in the holidays. I cried. I didn't even know what to do. I gave him a piece of cards that he likes. No, Pokemon. Maybe a kid like Pokemon. He loved me. That's all he wanted. He don't need anything else. But he wants to know if I'm going to be okay. He made it okay. Just to know that he sees my efforts. I go to Dr. Latney, talk to him all the time. Anytime I go through something. It's just recently. The troubles that men go through is hard. Like now, I'm stuck that I'm going through something again, and once again, he said, after this, we're going to talk about it again. My son gets kicked out of a private school. That's autism. How does she get away with that? We're going to talk about it. That's the backup you need as a father. There's someone ready to talk to you, and let's figure it out together. Not turn your back to a man because he's trying to figure it out, or he doesn't know what to do. Just give him that support he needs. He'll follow the directions. He'll do what needs to be done. You just got to give that man an opportunity to let him lead. My pride is always there, and I'm always willing to work hard to do what I have to do. Once my support's there, I'm gonna fly.
When Anthony asked me to do this, I thought it was going to be easy. But standing here, seeing some faces that I know, I'm wondering tomorrow when I come to work, I'm going to go in my office and just close the door and just... You're okay, my brother. I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of the system failing us. My story is as simple as most people. For those who know me, I'm Anthony in Danbury. When I was in Danbury, because I was a co-lead of Fatherhood engagement, in 2017, I presented at the Fatherhood engagement conference, and I was speaking fatherhood. I was talking to providers to engage these fathers, and in October 2017, face-to-face with a family relation female officer, is when I realized that I'm just a regular black man because of what she said. She told me, it doesn't matter, you can't have physical custody of your kids, you just need to see your kids, and I'm going to give you 2 days. Do you want it, yes or no? That just hit me. It hit me because no criminal record, nothing. I mean, I've been a good citizen, as one will indicate. I work hard, even harder. I mean, most people who know me here, Caroline was my go-to. I would be working Caroline like it was nothing. After hours, I'm everywhere. I couldn't fight the system, and that was something that hurt me the most. I mean, I'll come to work, I'll do my work, I'll be fine at work. But at home, I realized that I'm crying a lot. I'm talking to my brother more in Maryland because 2 days is not enough for me. 2 days and every other weekend was not enough for me. Reason being is because I work, I go home, I see my kids when we work together. For her to just leave, take my kids and only get 2 days, that's something I was struggling with. So, for her to tell me that I should just take it and run with it, and the concept of me losing physical custody was hard. I did lose it. My visits were not consistent because I'll go to the door, they're sleeping. I can't go into her house because then I'll get arrested, I'll lose my job. These are the barriers that the police are not helpful to me because I'll file a police report. They were like, I can't. This is a family issue. You gotta go to court. So, 9 months ago, after watching YouTube of lawyers arguing the case in court for almost 4 months, I decided to file a motion after 45 incident reports that I made and argue my case. Luckily, when I went to court 9 months ago, the same female family relation officer was assigned to the case. I sat down in front of her. Actually, I also wrote a summary of facts, because now, as a DCF supervisor, I'm using all the tools that I have. Attached with my 45 or 40 incident reports, I'm highlighting everything that this judge needs to read to let me know that my kids are I need my kids with me more, because mom is working, and she's leaving the kids with friends and grandparents, and I was home, and I don't know why, if I'm home at 5 o'clock, and she has to work at 9 till the next morning, I can't care for my kids. Anyway, long story short, I met with this female family relation officer again, and she told me that my motion was baseless, and that she's allowed to leave my kids with other people, family members, despite that I was able to care for them. This time, I was intimidated by her because of the YouTube clips. It psyched me up. So, she gave me the option of agreeing to give me 1 additional day or go in front of the judge to argue my case out. I told her I'm going in front of the judge. In my head, I'm like, if you guys don't turn, it can be worse than turn, right? So why not? That's kind of true. So I go in front of the judge. I see the judge flipping through some papers. As I'm sitting there, my hands are shaking. He takes his time to read something, and I'm thinking it was things that I wrote, those facts that I wrote in there. My kids are being left with the grandmother when I'm home. I'm capable, I'm using all these terminologies. Long story short, the judge believed in my ability to care for my kids. The judge gave me 5 days, but when I asked for physical custody, the judge says mostly physical custody is awarded to mothers. I'm like, Judge, but you just ordered that I have 5 days with my kids, so they're going to be with me majority of the time. He was like, you know what, I'll give you shared physical custody. And in my head, I'm like, so in the beginning, they could have given me shared physical custody, but they did not. Long story short, I'm here because for my peer to look at me and see me as not wealthy of caring for my kids was born. It hurt me the most because I could see myself through her. because we work for the same city. Anyway, long story short, I love leaving work to go pick up my kids, care for my kids. I was telling a story to my workers this morning. My 2-year-old mimics everything that I do. She's amazing. When I'm buttoning my tie, she's looking up to me. I'll tell her to go grab her shoes. She'll grab my shoes for me too. And I was telling my workers, this is the first time that a woman has grabbed my shoes for me. Even though it's the same color all the time, the black ones, like, she grab hers and grab mine. And my son is just playing his video game. So I mean, that's a story that I have to share. It's just more simple in terms of my peers even looked at me like I'm nothing and I should accept what was being offered to me. And I can't accept that. So, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is William. I'm from out of the Hartford area. I'd like to thank all y'all for spending your time to hear us fathers up here explain what we go through as dad. I'd like to thank Anthony, Abdul, and Mr. Rivera, kind of in my story. My story, I come from a big family. My dad had 10 kids. I got 8 kids myself. 3 girls, 3. That's how many kids I got. Can't you imagine? I got that's a shame. Hold up, just deal with me. I got this is crazy. They gonna kill my kids. I got 6 girls and 5 girls and 3 boys. I'm so sorry. Anyway, 5 girls and 3 boys. Wow, they're gonna kill me later. But anyway, my story goes because I like to thank Anthony also because I've been struggling in this process of dealing with my situation with my last kid. He's 10 months old. He's in foster care and his aunt got him. And it's been a terrible struggle because I got 5 sisters. I'm the only boy. I'm the oldest out of all the kids. And the story just feels like I've been going through for the last year now. Next month will be a year I've been fighting DCS. This is a real, I tell you how I came in here screaming, calling everybody names, right? I mean, he said calm down. Because you've been where I've been, and it's not that easy for us dads to love. A little bit about myself. Tomorrow I celebrate 7 years clean, like he said. Heroin was my drug of choice. I abused it to the fullest. This month I'll be 50 years old. I want somebody, I don't got no grandkids, I just want somebody to call me Papa. Just call me Papa. I'm a dad's dad. I don't want anybody to call me dad. That process over the hill, like I said, a little bit about myself. I've been struggling all my life. I've been getting high since I was 11 years old, in and out of prison, back and forth. No knowledge of common sense whatsoever. When I was in prison, I ran with a gang called 20 Love. Thought that was the way of life when I was locked up. Didn't nobody care. Due to the fact that my insanity came from nobody cared. And then when I got out, nobody cared, so I don't care. My mom been there, unconditionally give me, the blessings and everything that she could to tell me that everything would be okay. So like today, my mom and my process of recovery and things that we talk about that when I was getting high, I abused her. I made her, buy me drugs, take me places. And if she didn't, I called all type of names. You wouldn't believe the names you can call your mother when you're on drugs. And it was a big struggle. So my process is my 10-month-old son, 3 different baby mothers. His mom in jail, and I just been trying to fight tooth and nail. And like Anthony, I'm one of the ones who's homeless, no place to go and stuff like that, struggling with work due to my history of criminal activity. Not serious, just, background street stuff. And I've been fighting back and forth of trying to get this, thing done. I got a situation with one of my baby mothers. She just constantly want to see me in jail. I was fighting the other day with child support. That group came with me to give me support to tell the judge type program because they wanted to lock me up. And I don't want to tell anybody how much money I owe. And I'm trying to get an idea. So the process today is that, like I said, I'm here, and I hear these fathers share the story of what's going on. But the only thing that I really get out of the whole thing of a blessing is that I wake up with not hoping to get high the next day, and that's something I keep in the forefront. I don't never want to forget. I'm from the Hartford area. I didn't relocate. I was born and raised there, and I got one of the biggest families in Hartford. It's kind of difficult when most of everybody in your family get high and still want to get high and go around and try to absorb everything that's being done around you, and people still get high. But I hold on, I still say it don't gotta be me. I look at my son, he's 10 months old now, and he's walking, he's saying little Google Gaga words and stuff like that. Matter of fact, he's running, he ain't even walking, he's just running. And I'm like, yo, slow down, the world ain't going anywhere. At 10 months, he's walking, and he'll be a year old next month. And I'm like, listen, I've been fighting, DCF on the process of trying to get me help. As a single dad, it's not easy. Being homeless and knocking on DCF door, and you see all the things get done for women, and the system usually work for women. And then you get guys like me who really want to be involved in their kids' life, like unconditional. Sometimes I cry at these meetings when I was with DCF and say, my last work when we were just arguing about, I didn't want the father to say, I'm going to Amber Alert. Y'all going to have to test me with my son. I believe, was going to be on that bulletin board, and y'all test me with my son. And he was like, yo, just be patient, it's coming along. But my barrier is like being homeless, no job, and the things that I have to go through every day to, hopefully that everything will be okay. And then I'm dealing with some other barriers like my self-ego, self-medical, and I'm going through this process, but I was just arguing with my dentist about when the hell you gonna give me some teeth. You're killing me, man. You're killing me, And he said, well, give me another month. I said, I haven't got no damn another month. Give me some damn teeth. But I'm learning public opinion don't even matter. This is what my kids see in me and what they love that keeps me motivated. And when I see this little baby and, when you see me, he just smile, I'm just over the hill with kids. I just want somebody to call me Pop-Pop. Just say Pop-Pop, we going to the park. Oh man, I tell you what, where I'm at today, I do on a regular basis because I do show me some stuff and I plan in the men's group that we doing on Thursday that it works for me, man, because I hear other fathers and I struggle and I'm not alone. When I hear them, I say I'm not alone. Because I always thought women had it out beat. They can get everything. They don't have to do nothing but wear high heels and makeup and they can get to work. And that's how I was thinking. But as I see everything going, it's just going to take a process to work it out. And just be patient, man. And where I'm at, it's not bad of a struggle. But I tell them every day, just give me my freaking son, man. But it's not about that. And with that, I got it.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kerem Tolentino. How you guys doing? I came here to the blue opportunity to come to share my history. I'm a first-time father. I have a daughter, so I'm 4 months soon. I think it's going to be the 18th of this month, it's going to be 4 months. I'm married. Last year I got married to my wife, and we decided to have a daughter second to my family. This year came along with us the day she gave birth in the hospital, because she had a bad record with it for termination parent with 4 kids. Well, no one told her, the judge didn't tell her, you cannot have more kids. Like, pick who you like, that's on you. They didn't tell her that she can have more kids, so meaning she can have more in the family. And that was, I think that was when she was younger, maybe she didn't understand. My kid right now, my daughter is on temporary custody this year with a foster parent. We see her 2 days a week, which is Wednesday and Friday. I managed to I have a full-time job, I have a house, I try to provide everything. I do follow with my people who are at home. I do definitely all the therapies I'm still doing. My wife do the same thing, because we want to have our daughter back, I want to have our family back together. When everything happened, they told me in the beginning of the hospital, they said, oh, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to do this is the safety plan for studies, because we have 25 days for investigation. They told me, you can have your daughter, but your wife cannot be there. We managed to do that. My wife was 25 miles away from my house in Springfield, and I was in my house. I took a month of vacation, my own time, to have it. I was taking a couple months plans to work with everything. My income it didn't change because I know how to manage that. We did that, and then after we get out from the evaluation, because we did evaluation, check out the evaluation to see how it is, because I told you, people, it's not like they're in the past, they change, they keep growing now, they learn from mistakes. Sometimes it's hard to learn from mistakes, and they keep doing it, but I don't see that to her what it said that it's her, that she's a bad person. No, I don't see that. I live with her, I marry her, I'm 24/7 with her. One day the investigator called me, hey, what are you doing? I just got up from the evaluation. Can you come home? I'm here with something happened. I'm like, on my way to Springfield to drop my wife off. And like, oh, you can bring her. And I said, like, you sit there in front because the baby's in the house, checking on me clothes. And no, just come here. He told me, he didn't even believe it, like, the judge told me to take the kid away for temporary custody because I'm the first time driving. He said he didn't think I was safe enough to take my kid, which I was doing everything. They took on my kid with temporary custody. I still following what they told me to do. I told them I don't mind following. I will do whatever it takes to have her back. But also I want to fight for my wife because I want a family. I don't want it just to be me and my daughter, then my wife's in another place. I want to experience the experience of everyone having a real family. The daughter, the father, and mom at the same time. Because I grew up on a great family, but my father wasn't that around me. He just lived here for many years until like, oh, well, my mom. I don't want that. So right now we're doing everything that we can to have her back. We can have court. We're still waiting to see what the judge will say. The therapist have to tell us to do. One day they asked me how you feel with your time, job, and everything. That's not kind of impossible. You need to be here certain time, then to go to a place at a time, and to go to another place at a time. I have a lot of support. My boss is supporting me. I got friends. This is from my family. Support. If I need anything, just a phone call away from them, and let's just be there with me. I know my wife, physically, she didn't have no support. Well, now she do have a lot of support. She was there with but here 24/7, like if I'm not here, and if I take me a little time to get there, all this guy is gonna be there for help and everything. Right now, I got a call from the first. I hope everything goes well so we can have more time with our daughter. Because right now the thing that I'm losing is the experience of the father to be close to the daughter. To stay for 2 days a week, 2 hours is enough. Sometimes I feel my face to be, she forgets about me because she's still a kid. She's still a baby, she can't forget, she can all the faces and stuff. But when I see she still laugh with her, she see me, I see a smile, thinking of her as a mother. But that's what I'm afraid she do forget. And right now I'm trying to do everything to have back, I say. I'm trying she not to forget about us. She knows. So I think this year we're gonna find. Like I start finding more of hire a lawyer, private lawyer, and I think to get a more lawyer to make things harder. And I think that should be my history of my thank you for listening.
How you doing? My name is Rafael Lozano, and I first wanted to say thank you for all your stories. I know you said you cried, but all these stories from these men and being so open, I might just shed some tears for you guys, so, just let you know I got you. Okay? Where do I begin? 2010, my son was born. To be exact, on June 27th, that's when I became a father, and I say a father of my blood, because I was in a relationship with a female and she was pregnant. And it wasn't my intentions to be involved with her on that level, but how I was raised, I wasn't raised to judge or to discriminate or to see people different in that sense, and because of that, shy away. I always wanted to be a family man, so I accepted that female being pregnant as she was, and things evolved, and I accepted her child as my own. That was in 2008. So in 2010, that's when I had my own blood son, even though I still consider the child as my son. Things evolved, and in 2012, I had custody of my son, full custody. During a situation with the agency in another town, and I know I don't mention names, but it was the court system over there. I was somewhat conned in signing a document that changed my custody during a visitation with family relations. And I didn't know how impactful that would be. The document was designed to create access to the other party because we didn't have an access agreement. And I didn't know that I was changing my full custody to a shared legal custody. And keep in mind that I had an attorney that was supposed to be there the following day or two. And the person's like, no, don't worry, we're not in front of the judge, this is okay, do this, do this. And I was like, are you sure? I didn't call my attorney, I let them know I had it. But they said, no, don't worry about it, this is not a legal document because it's not in front of the judge yet. So, innocently, I did so. Shortly so, after leaving, my attorney asked me how did it go, I told her what happened, and she wrote me a new one. She said, you pretty much just made this a whole lot difficult, and I didn't know why. She said, if you try to go against what you just signed, even though it's not in front of a judge, it will be presented to the judge as you agreed to this, but now you change your mind to this, so why go back and forth and a whole bunch of other legal terminologies. So my battle started then. My son is 8 years old, and I've been in court since 2012. And at times I was in court monthly with an attorney, so I won't disclose that bill. But you can only imagine from 2012 until now, paying for an attorney to fight for your child, being a man, and not having a clear path of what your rights are and what you're entitled to, and how to protect your child and use the correct words. During that time, it made me take a hard look on my life. And understand what my son needed from me, because I was mom and dad in one, and I had to balance those two roles into one. But my job didn't see the same things that I saw. So they didn't understand when I had to leave and go from one state to another state because there's a child school call that said, he's sick, you need to come pick him up. I'm 2 hours away. Well, if you don't come, somebody has to come. Or the typical, we're gonna be dismissed early, sorry you didn't get the notification, you're gonna have to pick up at the police station if you're not here. I'm like, 2 hours away. Phone call just happened, so, okay. It made me take a hard look on what I need to do for him. And between the trainings that I've had throughout life and the knowledge that I've obtained with people and not taking things for granted, I just didn't socialize with people. And as I kind of say, like learn empty, I actually absorbed the information. And because of that, I was able to reinvent myself. And it's not an easy process to reinvent yourself, especially kind of when you're molded and you have certain plans for your life and you're kind of told, well, you're going to be this and you study for that and that's your path. But because my path changed, I need to understand what was most important for me, and that was him. So I changed my career, and I'll say this, I don't know if I should, but I opened a daycare center here in Waterbury. The reason I did that is because I needed to spend more time with him. I understood that his education was being affected, and he expressed it to me, but I saw it reflected his grades. How he learned was being affected. I understood how he learned. The school didn't understand how he learned exactly. And it took me to learn what the teachers were doing, and for me to then take how he absorbed the information and kind of, mush it together, and then explain to them how he understood the information. Overseas, we taught kids English, and we prepared them to come to the United States so they wouldn't have barriers coming here and be treated different and struggle with just the education portion. So I had a good familiarity of, interacting with different children from a very young age. So now the program that I offer here in Waterbury is designed to help kids in that sense. I speak English, I speak Spanish, spoke some French back in the day. But now I can help kids that have eating disorders or have just a father not being present, and they can look at me as that support. I've had kids call me dad. I don't say don't call me that. I talk to their parents, of course, but if that's how they feel open enough to do so, it's warming to me because I can give another child something that they don't have. I'm here today because of Anthony. I was asked to be here. It wasn't part of my thought process to become part of the fatherhood engagement group, or I never knew there was something like this. Everything was designed for females. I remember, I think like a couple years ago, I saw an ad during the Super Bowl, and it was the first time I saw anything regarding fathers, and it was talking about fathers' rights, and it aired a couple of times. After that, I never seen it again. But I was surprised to see that, and that struck me that we were heading somewhere. And it was better than heading nowhere. So I took that. After that whole situation with the program, the jurisdiction, the courthouse in another town, I had another situation. I was struggling financially. And I remember only having money for my son to eat. I didn't care about myself. I was like, no, he just needs to be fed. And I remember buying him food, and I remember buying him food and saying, you eat. And And he said, Dad, I want you to eat with me. I said, you can eat. He didn't eat that food until I ate with him. At that moment in time, I understood. Even though he was young, he understood the struggle. And a lot of times, people like to think that kids don't know. They know. They just express themselves different. And from that moment in time, I made sure that it was like a wake for her, not only to take care of him, I needed to take care of me. Because if I wasn't taking care of me, how could I take care of him? So, during this journey that I'm on, because that's what I call it, it's a journey, I continue to evolve, and we need to learn how to do so. We can't stay stagnant. So, during this process, I'm learning every day, learning from your stories, learning from you guys here. I've had my shared dose of DCF. Probably at one time I had DCF come out to my house 5 or 6 times in a year, different cases. And I can say at least they were pleasant because I knew where I stood. And they were able to see where I stood also. So I had no fear of that. But the stress that people don't talk about is the stress that it puts on the child. And I saw that, and it reflected, and it tore me apart because he knew, and he would tell me, oh, are we going back to court? Who's this person? Oh, I don't know if I should talk to them. You know, he already created fear in a certain process because he was tired of being questioned time after time after time. And same thing I told you, gentlemen, I told him, if you feel scared or if you feel like you want to cry, just come to me. I'll shed tears with you, or I'll shed tears for you. And hence I'm here today. Thank you.
Thank you guys for sharing. To further our discussion, we have some questions for you guys. Some of them may be specific to your story, me and Mariana and myself, we already know. And then some of them are for everyone to answer. If we say, Mr. Lozano and Mr. Nieves, Father, you may feel free to jump in as well. So the first question is, as a father, what is one thing we should know about you? And that's for everyone.
I'm sure everyone's answer here will be go above and beyond for anything for our children. You know, even if that means dying. So, yeah, that's my answer. I do anything, everything. There's no question. There's no other answer.
Jump on what he said, it's dedication. The kids are watching you, so everything you do, they all watch you, so I'll do anything for them. If I can move, if I can kick that ball, even if it's gonna hurt, I'll still kick it. But I'll do anything for them.
There was this commercial, it says, anything you can do, I can do better. That's what things in my head, and that is the fuel that every morning when I wake up at 6 o'clock, I have a routine down because that routine helps me, and I know I can do better. And so if he can do it, I think I can do better. So that's exactly what I'm talking about, the mothers, the difference between mothers and fathers.
Motivating myself, love God and try to show my family that I'm a better person, that I can get where I go, and show my kids that I'm there to love them the best way I can without, the money, the houses, the cars, just support.
I would say for me, support family. My family comes first. Help my wife with things that she needs. Just don't let you cost her, just be next to her, say this is what I'm trying. And just keep pushing forward and keep fighting till we can solve it.
I would say I'm just there. So all you gotta do is just be there. That's all they want. Is just keeping it simple.
So this next question is a little bit more specific. So I'm going to direct it to Mr. Freeland, Mr. Cooper, and Mr. Tolentino. What occurred that made you feel it was time for you to step up to the plate? If there was anything that occurred that made you want to step up to the plate.
Actually, for me to step into the play was, I was ready to have my daughter and me and my wife work because we have everything all set up, nice on the house, nothing was missing. Love was there, my family, my mother was there, supporting us. And that was actually make that really Spanish. I keep, like I said before, keep pushing forward and trying to work as a team because we're a team and we cannot give up. Just the only thing we got left, keep fighting until we can actually win. Because right now, our first priority is our daughter to have the battle.
Well, my dad and my mom were always in my life, so it wasn't like I was abandoned as a child or I didn't know my family, but I knew I had to get somewhat better, what I needed to get up in my life to know that everything would get better. And what I needed to understand how to get stuff done. Because my mother installed in me as a man, take care of your family. So,
when things got real bad, just made me push more harder. And a lot of times when I go through certain things, I think about all the struggles my mother had to go through just to keep us together. I've seen her walk in blizzards in New York City, go to work, come back freezing, and she still kept it going. My mother's one of my biggest heroes. So sometimes I always say that, yeah, there's a split between mothers and fathers. I've seen what my father had to go through to keep us together. I've also seen my mother keep it together. With both of those structures, it kept me going to say, I had a good life, not realizing it. I had two focused parents. Yeah, they went through a lot of issues, but they still stayed together. And I've always thought maybe that's what I should have done. But life doesn't work that way. If two people can't be together, they just can't be with each other. You just gotta let it go. But I've been with mine for 22 years. Still proud of my mom, still proud that I still kept my arm, no matter what. And to step it up more, once I know that she was trying to keep my kids from me, I became a school teacher in the same school. You can't beat me there. What you gonna do? I'm the teacher. Teachers conference. You gotta meet up with me. When kids come in, guess who you gotta talk to? You know you saw the face. But it was alright. But you know what? Through the situation, it made you just step harder and harder and harder to know that you love your kids. There's no one can tell me anything. I love my kids. It was a great feeling to see my kids come to me in class and they don't call me Mr. Freeland. They say, stop calling me. You still do it, but you gotta step your game up at all times. Always make sure that you go through a situation, try to make the best out of it.
The next question is for everyone. Were there any personal some barriers that affected your ability to parent?
Well, the changes. Sometimes when you want things to happen, then sometimes there's things that stop you from making it happen. Me being accused of doing something I didn't do, to my wife, she used the system. She used the system against me. Because I'm a good guy, I don't think she would do something like that. She did it. I turned my back around, and all of a sudden, I don't have custody of my kids. Like, is that? What the hell did I do? Because if you have something on you and your charges, you don't have rights to your kids at that time. And it's messed up because a lie was believed for the truth. My backgrounds didn't mean anything. Whatever I've done, whatever hard work I've done didn't mean anything. I was just a criminal. And I had to pay all that money for an attorney to clear my name. And it's crazy because even attorneys are mad. Not what I was told who I was, that's not who I am. But to believe a lie, and it's so easy to believe a lie because you gotta do your job. You have to be biased, you have to do and look in between, find anything that doesn't make any sense, even when it doesn't make any sense. But if you still go through the system, if you still go through it and not pay attention to those little things that don't make sense, that person is scarred for life. And then it's hard for you to be a parent when you have something behind your name and telling you that you look like this and that's not who you are.
I think drugs played a bigger part in my situation because I used to sit down when I was getting high and hear my mom, tell me things like, don't you get high, you see, you'll be going around that revolving door. So years later, as I figured out how to not let drugs be my first and foremost over my kids and my family, it helped me to understand and love, love myself, to love anybody, love my kids. That played a bigger role. So once I stopped using, I got a little bit more better with myself and understanding what it took to be a dad. Not that when I was getting high, I would watch my kids would be around them. I just was an idiot getting high. You get frustrated and angry when you're high around kids. Not that I harmed or hurt any of my kids, but I just was angry. But once I figured that out and stopped and thought about that can be much more better without the use of drugs, it became more easier for me. And that's something I conversate with my mother all the time about not using, because she used to tell me, the longer you use, the more you will be in and out of jail. So that kind of like put me in a whole state of mind of changing and how to become a dad with understanding without using drugs.
For me, for personal barriers, I don't have any, but the only barrier that I have is the thing that we don't have our daughter because of my wife passed. And that's one barrier that I have making to be as a parent, because I will see the experience of that.
I would say that a barrier would have been, as far as an emotional barrier or anything like that, I don't have anything, but finance is a big part of it, because unfortunately, if you don't have anything, it's kind of hard to be a parent and provide for your child, because it's one of the few things they ask, are you financially able? And my situation was how the laws were designed, and being a father and having custody of my son, they weren't very flexible with my, as they called it, a unique situation. So that was my barrier, hence the changes that I've taken to change that and not ever fall back into that.
So Janelle, if I could sit here and we get to hear these gentlemen share their stories, people may have some questions that they may want to ask the fathers. Is there anyone who had any sort of follow-up questions that they wanted to hear anything more from any of the fathers on the panel?
I actually don't have a question, gentlemen, I just have praise for your courage and your kindness in sharing your story with us. I want to thank you so much.
So I just want to ask, I had an opportunity to talk to some of the gentlemen on this panel, and sort of reiterate what Jen said. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to sit in front of 75 or 100 people and just kind of open up about what's going on in their personal life. So I want to commend you all for that. And as I stated in the beginning, we call it a listening forum, but this is really an opportunity for us as DCF workers, DOC workers, or whatever agency or provider agency we work from. It's an opportunity for us to learn, and I'm not trying to hijack what Janelle and Mariana are going to do, but at the same time, I'm looking at the clock, and we want to be conscious of the time that we said we wanted to be here. So we really need to try to learn all we can from you as panelists to help us sort of look at our work, how we can change, maybe offer some suggestions, some feedback, some recommendations, to sort of make things better for our father, maybe yourself in the moment, or another father who at some point may be in a similar situation. I would imagine that everyone here learned something today. There was a tremendous amount of emotion in this room. And then oftentimes it takes that for people to look at someone different. Or truly understand their position and where they're coming from. So I would just ask, or I'm asking for Janelle and Mariana, if you gentlemen would each of you could share something that you think, not just DCF, I'm talking systems in general. What could you offer to us that would make systems more father-friendly? So I'll start with Mr. Razan, and I guess you guys can move down.
Excuse me, because I don't remember who said it, but I guess somebody on this side over here earlier. Unfortunately, men do speak a different language. And I remember some gentleman here, he said that he had a couple of caseworkers, and then when he had a gentleman caseworker kind of set him straight. And then earlier it was said that we as men may say things, and in our minds we mean one thing, but how it comes out is something totally different. And sometimes, usually, it takes another guy to say, so what you're trying to say is this. And you're like, yeah, didn't I just say that? And he's like, well, no, but okay, I get what you're saying. Systematically, to be treated equally is one thing. I would say one experience that I had was when having custody of my son at such a young age. I remember going to another town that I was living in at that time, and I went to, I can't name the agency, right? Or I can't name the town that it's in. So I was going to the WIC office, just because I figured I would go and ask questions because I didn't have answers and I wanted to know. So I said, when we first started and we went to the appointments and we had formula, met with the nutritionist, and he said, anything you want to come back. So I said, okay, I need something. Can I, since now I have custody of my son, can I get the WIC for my son? I was told no. And I was told no because I was a man. And they said that WIC was only designed for women because that's who gave birth to the child. But I was baffled because the conversation that was had was the WIC was for the child, hence why they regulate vegetables and this that you have to buy and the type of milk that you have to buy, which has to be whole versus 2%, and the lactose and all this great stuff. So I said, he's here, so why can't he have it? It's for him, it's not for me. He said, because he's in their custody. He has to be with the mother. And I said, okay, so you're telling me farmer's market, all that stuff is gone? Yeah. I said, okay, thank you for the information. I'll take care of it. And, I did. But me being here today was because, and I didn't know Anthony from a hole in the wall. I kind of stumbled upon him. And I asked him that same question. I didn't need it anymore by that time. But I said, listen, have you ever run into this situation? And he explained to me that I'm not the only person out there that has had something similar like this happen to them. My main concern is that if the system is designed to protect the child or to give for the child, it doesn't matter as long as the child is being taken care of. And if it's something for the child, give it to the child, regardless of whoever they're with, and be clear with it. And I wasn't treated fairly, as my son in this case, because we were both turned away. I guess systematically, that's my experience, that everybody gets on the same page.
What feedback can you give us in terms of how systems can make changes to make things better for you in your current situation, or for a father who may have a similar situation, who may not be in this room?
I would say, first of all, to get to the person you're working with, to get to know you more, try to understand you. All the things like not to too much into all past records, because it could say something which you are not on this day. Like 4 years ago you did that, and those years passed, you made a mistake, and you changed to be a better person. And most likely 90 days, then you look for the past, and like it says that. And they try to do the new paper, like, okay, I'm gonna check you out, and you do it. But then we look into that paper that much, so they want to concentrate into the old paper of what I did. And all I did to see and say, to get to that person no more, and not just for a simple paper that says that person's not the same.
First of all, give help to the dads that really want to be involved in their kids' life, as opposed to the dads that's in here that don't want to be involved in their kids' life. Sit up here and you got these dads that, wants to really, work out and get involved with their kids, as opposed to ones walk out the building and never looked at their kids. And the system is so messed up with the fact that I feel that if you struggling and you really content on really being in your child's life, the system should help you. But the fact that, the same person you be talking to in their face, go home and don't even play with their kids. Hey, Joey, go outside, don't come back in. And I think the system should try to understand, as opposed to, like he just said, looking down on a person from where a person has been and where a person came from. I've been going through for the last 10 months, expressing myself, what help DCF should get in and what I should get and whatever. I'm tired of that over the hill stuff. But like I said, to me the deadbeats get all the props. That's just my opinion. You get the ones who go to work all day and play whatever scenario and don't even play with their kids, man. But then you get the ones who really try to focus on doing everything, like participating going to class, going to schools, getting involved with the teachers and doing stuff, or, you know, meeting different parents at football, basketball games. When you see a person struggling and try to be involved with that, that's what the system should focus on. I'm not saying it's gonna change overnight. I know that. By me sitting here saying it's gonna change overnight. But I always ask my worker the same question. What are you doing for me? You know, I'm more control. You've been more controlling me for the last 2 months. Go to this program, go here. But I've been doing it, but where's my rescue coming from? So that's how I look at the system. It gets frustrating sometimes, it really does. Because, you know, we get sitting here and discuss all this until it turns into another whole scenario. But my thing is, I get tired of asking my DCF worker the same question. When are you going to give me my son? But once again, my fault of where I'm at this age and time in my life, I can't blame nobody but me.
So I know each system or every system has its own needs of improvements. So with my encounter with the court system, the only thing that over, even at night when I sleep, I keep thinking about is their statue of a lady holding a scale with a blind on. And I wonder if it's supposed to be blind and everybody's supposed to be judged equally, why are people looking at me and treating me like individuals who do not care about their children? Because then it doesn't make it blind, it makes it judgmental for me. And I think that, to me, that's scary, because I've done everything right, but I'm not being judged the same. So, but every system has its own needs to improve. And I think they've done a great job, but there's still work that needs to be done.
For me, it's a little different. I run my kids. I got primary custody of my son because of the steps I took, paid attention in the system. They know what we're doing. But like I was telling my brother, one of the biggest problems I see that guys are afraid of, when someone say call DCF, like, oh no, I'm not going to DCF, no, I want to get my kids taken. They're afraid. You got to change that structure. Stop letting people be scared to get help. Because really what they think is, no, these ain't trying to help me, they trying to hurt me. Gotta stop that statement. We really gotta change that statement, because there's too many times that if you walk around and you tell them to go for them for help, they'll think, hey, they're trying to help you. Why do they think that? It's been going on too long that the system gets put up to where that the system of DCF is not trying to help you. And we gotta stop letting them think that. If you walk into somebody's house with that same structured attitude, where you're trying to just shut them down, that's what you just did. You got them to shut down. I'm not gonna tell you nothing. They're gonna act like the child. I'm not gonna tell you nothing. I'm gonna tell you what you need to hear. That's it, that's bad. Because the child could be engaged and you're not gonna know it because you're not gonna get the right information. But if they know you're trying to work on getting them help and getting them to stay with their family and do what needs to be done and get out the negative part of the situation, separate the negative out and make it a positive. Reinforce it with more positive and get out the negative. Because we're seeing that there's a lot of negative, but the situation's not their fault, it's their environment. We all see it. Look on Waterbury. There's so many people who are good but have to live in a negative area because they have nowhere to go or their income is too high. The situation is so messed up. For me, I have a child with a disability, I have a child with autism. Where is the help for me? If I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, yes, my child can be taken away because of the disability. But at the same time, I do all I can for my child. How can you see that? If I tell you that, that's just words coming out of my mouth. You have to do your job and see for what it is. There's food and everything in my house. My kids are well taken care of. But my background is not looked at until then. But if he's already a part of the system, it's already too late. And then I gotta go through hell to try to get him back. Come on, we can't do that. We can't crucify one person who is trying to do the right thing. The environment is not the person, it's just the environment. If the person is acting accordingly, doing what they're supposed to be doing, you gotta give them the help. As many times I've told my friends, you need DCF help? Call them. Oh, they're not trying to help you. Yes, they do. They have their policies to help the child. Call them. They'll make agents call other areas to make sure they get what you need to get done. But they don't say it that way. Now they're just scared. So what are we doing? Are we showing that we help them, or are we putting fear in them? You can't let that word DCF be fear. It has to be what we call to help. Let's change that, and you'll get a definite result.
Well, I'm the last one who's going to speak here, so I show hands, how many people have children here? Great. I just want you guys to understand, like, I know you guys can actually relate, like, if somebody came to your home and wanted to take the children away, it'd be the most devastating thing in the world. Like, it's like, of course you're going to be aggressive. Of course, the first thing you're going to do is build a wall and say, who are you? You're going to take, who are you to take my kids away? And come here and judge me. That's exactly what I was thinking today. I'm like, man, I'm so nervous. I hope they don't judge me. And I just want to come here free of judgment. You know, that's the world we're living today. Post a picture, we want likes. We want to be judged. We see people judging us. Oh, your skirt's too short. Your hair's too short. This world is just a whole world of judgment. And that's what everybody does. And partially it's a lot of the father's fault from the 50s and all the way dating back to the Roman era. Women always took care of the children. You know, and now, you know, we're here at the point where we're like, oh, we messed up, you know. You know, we do want equal rights. Just like women want equal rights and we fought for equal rights. And my wife's like, go mow the lawn. I'm like, you want equal rights? You know we're equal here. We are equal people. I gotta mow the lawn. It's a man's job. That's what they say. It's a man's job. Mow the lawn. No, it's not. Women work construction too. I want you the one that you can ride on, man. You don't have to walk. So like I'm saying, it's like, you know, we didn't come here to be judged. Don't judge anybody here for what you guys do. I commend you guys for the work that you guys do. Well, we just have to start somewhere. We're not going to fix the system. It'll never change, but we can help. We just got to help each other out, one person at a time, one family at a time. Thank you for having me here today.
So before we separate, I'd just like for us to make a couple of casual observations. So these gentlemen right here, I need to share this with you. I've never met any of them. But here's what I need to share with you. These guys are not the exception to the rule. That's a big misnomer that we make and say, well, these guys are these people out of these people. That's not necessarily the case. Are we giving them an opportunity to be looked at equally with that blind opportunity to see what the core value is as an individual? Here's what I also like you to think. Think about some of the stereotypes that are often utilized to describe men. Not expressive, not nurturing, devoid of emotions. Take a look at what we just saw today. We saw all of those that came natural, not for show, not for anything else, and in front of a public platform. I'd ask you to think about that as you leave out of here. Here's the last thing I'd like you to think, second to last thing. When we talk about impact, one of the gentlemen said the impact of his child. Kids see things. Kids feel things. There are a lot of people in this room that work with families to keep them intact. There are also some of us who work with children who've been separated and find themselves in foster care. So sometimes when you see behavior It's grieving. It's anxiety. It's stress. And 9 times out of 10, the kids are more worried about the parents if they're okay. That's making it challenging for them to do short division and remember President 16th President of the United States. So just think about that when we see those things. Is it other things that can be connected, and could there be some undercarriage that can be bringing some things out? And the absolute last thing I like to say is this. Notice these guys. You got some funny dudes, right? Funny guys. And we're like, I couldn't go at that. When do we use humor? Maybe when we're anxious, nervous, or as a coping mechanism. So sometimes it comes out as humor. Sometimes it comes out in voice, or body language, or presentation. We need to find ways to sift through that and give people an opportunity to have an individualistic look, so then we can make decisions on what's really happening, where can we meet them, how can we support them, but also keep them accountable as well. So hopefully you'll walk out of here feeling some, sense of frustration or maybe embarrassment. Good. But hopefully this will be those things we talked about earlier that can help put us in a way to feel inspired, empowered, and motivated. So, anything to say? Sure.
So before everyone leaves, we would just ask, yes.
May I just ask a quick question before?
Sure.
Of Mr. Is it Meeks?
Yes.
You stated that you had 3 caseworkers.
Yes.
The first 2 were female and the
Correct.
final was a male. How much do you think that affected the outcome of your case, the fact that you were dealing with another, a male?
I don't want to judge, I don't want to put it in a stereotype where the man came in and it was better for me because he was a man.
Right.
I want to say he came in empathizing, and he came in non-judgmental, and he saw me as an individual and not as a man. He just saw me as a person who was like, and he kept it real with me. And that's what I want to say, like that was the first 2 caseworkers were kind of like, this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. He was more like, you're effing up, you're gonna lose everything, dude, like seriously. Like, it was like snap out of it, like one of those uncles or like knocks you on the head, like snap out of it. Like he kept it real. That was the most honest thing that somebody can do with me. Just keep it real.
Thanks. I was hoping that would have been your response, and I just wanted to follow up with, from the perspective of someone a novice to the system, I believe that somewhere along the line, as a social worker, when that work starts piling on, because you get those cases and you get these circumstances, and you have your biases and so on that you enter the system with, but then you start losing that passion, that initial reason for becoming a part of this process. And so, not to take away the focus from the entire group of fathers who did so nicely with their presentations, but to just throw it out to everyone in the room, that try to reflect on that passion that caused you to enter the system in the first place. And try not to lose that, in spite of what is piled on you, because you know what the job entailed when you became a part of the system. So don't let that be the reason that you have lost that focus, that passion, that idea of change that you want to implement in the stages.
Thank you for that.
So here we are at the conclusion of our time together. So I would just ask you, each of you should have received an evaluation. We're going to ask you that if you could just take an intentional moment to fill this out. We know things are waiting for you outside, but we do look at this feedback that you give us to see what's working well and other suggestions for moving forward. And I will just leave you with this final statement. It's all fine and good to spend a couple hours in this room, but if we leave all this energy and all this information in here, in many ways it's a waste of time. So think about how you intend to transfer some of this learning in your personal and professional capacity, because they do have to be the same. All right, so thank you guys.